Hey everyone, this is your favorite radio host, Corinne Lafont, your only radio host. You should only be listening to me, broadcasting from Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of people still think I'm in Jamaica. Probably my spirit is still there, but I'm physically here in Trinidad and Tobago, and the weather is a bit overcast, kind of cool. Nice weather. Yeah, the trees are swaying. It's a beautiful day. I'm thankful to be here. And I have with me Everett DeMaurier. And let me give you a bit of information about Everett, and then I'll share my screen. Everett DeMaurier has appeared on CNN, Fox News Network, NPR, and ABC, as well as in the New York Times and the London Times. He has also written for In Fisherman, Florida Keys, Bride, and Parenting. DeMaurier's novel, 33 Cecils, won the top fiction prize at the London Book Festival, was named Book of the Year by Heroic Magazine, and is required reading in the 2 New York high schools. It is currently being developed as a major feature film, and that's what we're talking about today, how to turn a book into a film. Everett currently writes for 543 magazine, and his best of articles have been compiled into a book, The Invention of Everything, which you're going to see in a little while, The Invention of Everything, Insights on Life, Food, and One Good Thermos. You definitely need a thermos. I can't tell you the last time I heard that word, which will be released in December 2018 by Bliden. He will correct me, Square Books. That's his publisher, I would presume. So, welcome, Everett.
Thank you.
Between the Lines. Yes, it's good to have you. So, did I pronounce that publisher correct? Is it Bliden or Bliden?
Bliden.
Bliden. Very good. So, let me do a screen share so people can see what your book is about here. Just give me a second. Share screen. So while we're talking and you're showing your handsome self, let me share screen. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
Beautiful. So Everett DeMaurier. You know, when I say DeMaurier, it sounds like the DuMaurier, you know, the cigarette. DuMaurier.
Yeah. It's spelled differently, the DeMaurier cigarettes, but
yeah, it's spelled differently. Yeah, but it songs has that similar sound, DeMaurier, you know.
And if you add the ho,
yeah, let's try it. I wonder if they were choking on the smoke when they were doing that.
Yeah, maybe.
All right, Everett. So we're here talking about turning a book into a film, and you're doing pretty well. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Yes, The Invention of Everything. I mean, Insights on Life, Food, and One Good Thermos. I think the thermos is the key thing there. What is it about the thermos?
Yeah, it's a nonfiction. It's a collection of the best of articles from 543 magazine, and 543 magazine was about 4 years ago. I decided that I wanted to make sure that everything that my 2 sons needed to know, I had taught them. Did I teach them how to change a tire? Did I teach them how to jumpstart a battery? Do they know how to tie a tie? And I started compiling these things. And finally, I realized it was too big just for a list, so I created an online magazine and it sort of took off. And when we realized, we set it for the 543 things that every man should know.
Wow.
But when we started doing detailed marketing on it, we decided more women were reading it than men. So we changed it from...
We have the interest, right? We have to tie your ties. We have to tie your ties, right?
Right. But there was things on cooking and things on budgets and things like that women wanted to know as well. So we changed it from 543 Skills to 543 Magazine. And the book itself is the collection of some of those best of articles.
I love how you started off with that. It was just something that you did for your sons and just out of just something to pass on, and it turned into a business.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting? You know, people really don't understand the simplicity of some things that they're doing and how important it is. And you realize that you were getting hits, interest. It was targeted for men. It ended up more women being interested typically. And so you had to revamp. And this is normally the process of things, you know. You start off with just a hobby, you have an interest in something, a passion. You realize other people have an interest in knowing this, and you start off thinking not with any target audience in mind, but you end up curving and tweaking and twisting until because you're targeting an audience now, you realize you have one. Isn't that awesome? So nice.
Yeah, and then sometimes that preconceived notion can be wrong. I mean, I would just assume that it was going to be 20 to 30-year-old men, and it was actually women of all ages that wanted the information. So it's the drive was there, and I think the information was there, and now I'm just excited that it's reaching a bigger audience.
Oh, nice. I'm happy for you. 543 things. How in heaven's name you came up with 543 things that men need to know, your sons need to know?
I just figured a number that I could never get to. So I figured 543 would be the number.
So you just came up with a number you would never get to, but did you get to it?
No, and what's funny is that it developed from there. So I started tracking the skills, skill 18, skill 22, skill 25, but then it developed into other things other than skills. So there would be a skill on how to iron your clothes, let's say, but then there would be a story, something on developing self-esteem, or which was not considered one of those 543 skills. So even though you had this core of 543, you had these arms of the tree that went out even further than that, and it really changed into something else.
Yeah. I mean, because just simple ironing, which is a broad topic, you have different types of shirts to iron.
Yep.
How would you iron a cotton shirt? How would you deal with a silk shirt? How would you deal with ironing probably a sleeve, or I don't know. There are so many things just with ironing. So you can get up to the 543 and surpass the 543. And
what was interesting too was it was. I mean, we can grab that data on our phones. We can find out how to jumpstart a car, how to do this. But the way I was taught in the little tiny town that I grew up with is you learn by stories. So if you're learning to split wood, you still have to learn about the man down the street that could split two logs at once, and you built in these stories and you remember these stories. So all of 543 skills has to do not just with the skill itself, but the story that will remind you and sort of educate you.
No, stories sell. We know that, Everett. Stories sell, and once there's a story, everybody will always keep talking about it. I remember listening to Everett, or I read Everett, or I saw Everett. And the log cutting thing, I've always seen that on TV. Oh my goodness, I just find that so interesting. I definitely need to get your book. I need to, well, we don't have logs here to cut in the Caribbean, and there are special people who do that. It's not a skill that boys here need to learn.
I'm sure you could find the 542 other ones.
That makes sense, Everett. That makes sense. That one skill I probably don't need to know. But the other 542 I need.
Right.
Awesome. So let's move into what we are really here to talk about, even though what we spoke about is really interesting. But moving a book into a film. Now, you do plays and you're a writer and stuff like that. How can an author listening to this? Because I recently spoke at a literary festival here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's one of the major festivals. It's Latin America and the Caribbean is targeted to. So people came in from all over. It's an annual event. So I was one of the speakers at the event. And we spoke about, building a business behind your book. Having a book is not just a matter of saying that you're an author and having a book. That is just a ticket in, your foot in the door, help to build your credibility and visibility. But you really need to have a business behind that. Other things that are spin-off that can support your book. Yeah. And of course, generate an income for you, because authors obviously are looking to generate an income. So books moving into film, what are the types of books do you think that would be best to be considered for a film? Because everybody would love to have that they're contacted, that their book is awesome to be turned into a film. They see it, they go to the premiere, they're on the red carpet, you have all of that. What type of books from your experience would make good stories or good books to move into a film or even a play?
Yeah, I think the good news is we're seeing all books have a play. I mean, you're seeing nonfiction that are presented in a way, historic fiction, obviously. The great news is it's basically the golden age of film right now. I was listening to I can't remember the director's name, but he was talking about a film that he did that cost some ridiculous amount of money, and he basically said that he could do it now on a laptop. So the technology is there. But what's really interesting is just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you went from, from a studio to a movie theater, which held your film, and then from that it went to pay TV, and then it went to cable TV, and you were done. Well, now video on demand is huge, and video on demand has changed everything. And you can make, just as a studio can recoup the money that they have quicker, and with more different areas of revenue through video on demand than ever before. And you can do it for a small, I mean, at one time, $3 to $5 million to make a film was considered low budget. You can make a middle of the road film that can make very, very good profits for that amount today. Okay,
good. So nonfiction would make good storytelling books.
Yeah, and you're seeing a good example is What to Expect When You're Expecting. What to Expect When You're Expecting was a nonfiction book.
Nice.
For women that were pregnant.
Yeah.
And they turned that into a story, and they took advantage of that brand because everyone that read it was going to go see it. And they turned that into a film.
Nice.
So you can do it. I mean, you can do it in pretty much anything you want, provided you've got the right slant.
That is what I was about to ask. That is what I was about to ask, because if you're thinking of, it's kind of like forward thinking. If you want your book to be considered for a film, what are some things that in the writing process or in the planning to write process that you should consider?
Yeah, the first thing in the writing process is, if you've never written a screenplay before, it's unlike any other writing that you've ever done. With writing the novel that this film was based on, and with writing 7 plays, I thought that this was going to be so easy to write the screenplay, and it is not. The format is completely different.
Yeah.
You have to be concerned with stage or camera directions, but at the same time, what's really interesting is you also have to be aware of directors' egos. Directors do not like to be told what to do. So if you write the scene and you say the camera slowly comes in and fades in, it catches the ring just as directors don't like that, because directors want you to give them basic instructions, and they want to tell you what they're going to do. So you've got to be as detailed as you can while allowing them
freedom.
The freedom. And if I were to make a pitch, there's a software out there called Final Draft. And
yes.
It's pretty much the industry standard.
I know it.
There's a lot of other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it. And I actually attended the screenwriters conference. It was a combination of both, writers and screenwriters conference for Writers Digest, where a lot of the people, it was in Hollywood, a lot of the people came, from the writing industry and that type of thing. And I've heard of it, and I need to really look that up, Final Draft. I think they were giving out some copies of some CDs, for persons to kind of test it out as well.
I tell you, with the producer that we were working with, there's some other softwares out there, and he basically said, look, this is it. And if you really want to write the screenplay, because that's the only thing I wanted. When we sold the rights, it was really important to me that I write the screenplay. So he said, you need to get Final Draft, and you need to get proficient. And it's a very specific software, but what I did is I knew nothing about it. I put an ad in Craigslist for someone to spend an hour with me, because you can tell me all day they want, but I want to do it and have somebody watch me. And I met a college student from Temple University. We met in a Barnes and Noble, and she spent an hour with me as I did it, and I was off running. That's all I needed.
Oh, nice.
So it's really, if I can pick it up in an hour, anyone can pick it up faster than that. But it is very intuitive in the scene sets, and if this scene over here is the same day as this scene over here, it has to track that, because you're writing it for the actors, you're writing it for the directors, but you're also writing it for the continuity people, the set people, the prop people. It's there.
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts, Everett.
It is.
I don't know if I want to take on that, or could somebody pass that screenwriting on to somebody else if you don't want to take it on?
Oh, you could, absolutely. You could.
Yeah, and just take on a sort of, I don't want to say director's role, but some sort of influence in the way how to keep to the essence of what you're writing, the story.
Yeah, you absolutely could.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So, oh my God, this is a lot of information. You're talking about screenwriting and directing and the things that people need to consider in their books uh, to turn into a film. So let's come back to that example you use of expecting for expectant mothers that they turn into a film. What do you think that was in that book that piqued the interest of a
You know,
film?
I think that's a real, in my opinion, I think that was, and I could be totally wrong, but looking from the outside, I would say that was completely driven by branding.
Mm,
That book had sold gazillions of copies for decades. It was a
right.
recognizable brand name. I am guessing that
Mm,
that's what drove it.
yeah, yeah. The publicity, the
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
because you could have mothers and grandmothers and children that have probably all read that book
Mm,
that would flock to that because of that brand name. So
yeah.
if I had to make a guess, that would be my guess.
Okay. And that makes sense. You already have a name. When you have to promote the film is easy because
Yep.
people are already familiar with the book. And you notice that there are a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot because I don't have the statistics, but there are some books that, as you said, people would have read. And so when the film comes out, it's like a natural progression. You know, you're like, oh, I read that book, or I'm familiar with that book, or I've heard of that book. You know, it's a natural progression. But what about the books that probably a lot of people haven't heard of and they really have great content? How can an author get out there?
Yeah, I can answer the second more than I can answer the first. I'm not a household name. 33 Cecils is not a book that, I mean, it did well. It won some awards. It's being taught in high schools. It did well, but it doesn't have that brand recognition. And I
Right.
think that's a good thing because when you've got that, there's a formula, that is used. If you sold 2,000 copies, I'm making it up, then if you even make any film whatsoever with that name, you will send 2,000 minus something, and then they base it on that.
Right.
I think the advantage of not being well done is that you there's a big advantage to having a screenplay based on any book at
Mm,
all,
right.
because it gives it a platform to stand on. So if you have a book that was out, regardless of how it's sold or what awards it won or how recognizable it is, this story is in this other format. And that means something to somebody. It's a
That's
little easier to sell that idea to, this is based on, because if it was good enough for a book, then maybe it's good enough for a screenplay. So
yeah.
I think the fact that it is a book, I mean, you go to Hollywood and people have screenplays in their glove compartments, in their back pockets. But to base it on a book just gives you that half a step up as far as
Yeah.
credibility.
Yeah, I love that. As you said, it's another format. I don't think people see it that way. When we think of formats, and even me as a while ago, I mean, you really sparked a little moment there because when I think of formats, I automatically go straight to Amazon kind of mindset, ebook, print, audio. You know, I'm not thinking, oh, film.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not thinking of it as another format. I'm thinking, okay, my book is out now. How I have those formats already, the ebook, print, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But then film is like a big leap. How
Yep.
do I get from the book to the film? When it could be just, hey, it's just another format. It's visual, it's just another format. And I guess there is this new is it Facebook that is doing some Facebook Watch that is allowing, I think, for yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
I'm
new
not
thing
part
that
of it.
yeah, I think it's still in beta form, but it's mainly in the US now. So people are bringing out little mini series, little
Mm-hmm.
shows. You can do shows on Facebook Watch. They haven't opened it up to the global audience yet. It's just being tested in the US. And people are taking advantage of it. And you can have analytics and stuff. So it's this whole thing about making a movie is becoming so much more accessible to people now. When movies were like the thing to go to, is like a
Yep.
status, whatever. It seems so far-fetched, you know.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's not. It's just like you said, just consider it another format. Just like how you have ebook and print, it's just another format. And I mean, when I think about even book trailers, there are some people that create book trailers for their book that is like a little like a trailer for a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are even, they have even the music, the dramatic sound of a movie using their book trailers. You can just extend that 30 to 60-second book trailer into what? Probably a 1 hour film. You know, you can do that, just extend it based on just some more work. So it is just very possible that you can take your book and probably even use that to pitch to screenwriters to show them the possibility of your book as well. Is that possible?
Yeah, and I think what works really well with that is the fact that there are things that work extremely well in book form, and sometimes we go, well, this is my favorite part. I can't wait to put this into a screenplay. Well, it doesn't really translate this part, but what you couldn't do over here in the book, you now can with the film.
Fabulous.
And that was the hard part about keeping the story pure, but not being married to very specific things. And if it made sense to change this because it does better in a film, then you get to do this really incredible thing that you couldn't do in a book, but you can do it visually here.
Yeah.
So you've got to be able to take this. Here's my book brain over here, and here's my film brain over here, and then translate it and be able to say, hey, this part that I loved for the book works great for the book, but I'm putting it over here.
Yeah.
But this part that couldn't work with the book, I can put it over here.
I like the thought process, Everett.
Yeah. And a film shouldn't be, if you try to make it a book that is a film, it's not going to work. It has to be a film based on the book.
That's nice. It cannot be a book based on the film.
Right.
It has to be, let's process that. It cannot be a book based on the film. It has to be a film based on the book. And is that, that is interesting. Is that why people probably find books that they can do films on?
I mean,
it doesn't happen more the other way around. I'm trying to think if there has been a film and then a book comes out. I don't know of any.
Yeah, you have some fan-based books that are, I know a lot of the Star Wars type things are done as films, and then a book will come out based on the book.
Okay.
But if once you've visually seen it, you're not going to go back and create all this neat stuff in a book form.
No, the impact is different.
Really
Yeah.
Around. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difference. I wouldn't be interested in the book if I've seen the film first.
Right.
Yeah. And there are people who have said, like even 50 Shades of Grey, to use an example. I don't know if you have seen it or read the book. There are people who have read the book before, saw the film after, and they're like, the film cannot compare to the book. The book is just so much more. I don't know if it's because it plays on your mind and you create your own visuals and of course use your own experience. You vicariously live through the characters as opposed to the film, which portrays a certain image and you're like, well, that doesn't match what I read in the book. That is, it's like a disappointment for some people.
And there are those rare occasions where I will watch a film or know the book and then go back and the film is actually better. Now, does that mean that the film, that the person doing this is better? No, it just said they used that film to tell the story better than they used that book to tell the story. And it doesn't mean that the story is poor or good in either one, but there are those rare occasions. And I think what really fails is when they try to stay so loyal to the book that they keep it and it loses something in the film world.
Yeah, very good point. And I want to come back to what you were saying is that there are some things, you're writing and you write a book, but there are some things that will fit better into film or some things that may fit better into audio, some things that may fit better in the book. And I want writers and authors listening to this to really understand that, because they may just be thinking of just writing without kind of visualizing in your mind or having a plan or a thought or a vision, a future vision of where this book can go. I want them to start thinking that way, get their mind in a mindset, a mind frame, that it is possible that their book can become a film. And in writing, they're probably writing with that thought process, that this part can turn into a film. Or even when they're finished writing, they can say, this part can turn into this, or this part can turn into that. I can develop this some more, based on probably my audience, it will be best consumed this way or that way. That's very interesting. What are some steps you think that persons who want their book to turn into a film that they should do? You spoke about screenplays and the directors and stuff, but what about contracts and I've kind of gone ahead there, but
Sure.
what are some things some steps they should take in getting there?
I think as soon as you said that, the first thing that popped in my head when I started writing the screenplay based on the book, because I was dealing with a great producer named Brian Esquivel, who's just an amazing guy, and I knew nothing about this stuff going in, and he was incredibly patient. But the one thing we think, people have never written a screenplay before. We think that Hollywood is magic, that there are unlimited resources.
Of course.
And we can do everything we possibly can do.
Of course.
When we start writing, we go, oh, and I want this explosion, and I want this, and I want to be that. And I think the one thing that I have learned that I would like to pass on to your listeners is the fact that the sweet spot in films right now is that $2 to $5 million mark. And if you can write a screenplay to be produced for that $2 to $5 million mark, it can always be produced for more than that. Okay. So someone can see this and say, hey, I like this, but I think we can bump up this scene. Mm-hmm. But if you can have a screenplay that is tight, tells a great story, and can be made for that amount, you've just opened up your area, because there's so many studios that are making films in that area. So that's the key, is to try to make each scene as well as you can, but kind of keep an eye on the cost. And that's something that's kind of learned.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask you, how do you do that? How do you know that you're keeping it within a $2.5 million budget?
Yeah. It's a trick question, because a lot of this I was taught, hey, let's do this, let's do that. A lot of it has to do with time. You got to constantly think about time. I mean, when the final draft in a lot of the software is designed so one page is 1 minute of screen time.
Okay.
So that if this is 123 pages, that's 123 minutes.
Right.
So every minute you want to tell the story, but you want to be focused on it. So the things that you want to be, you want to consciously be aware of things, of any sort of special effects or anything like that is embedded in, because you can always add that later.
Yeah.
But if it's embedded in, then it's something that a director, because a director is going to look at this and a producer is going to look at it, and they are going to scan for things like that. They're going to scan for, oh, I liked it here, but if this part I can't pull out, and there's $1 million right there.
Yeah.
So I'm not really answering your questions, because I'm not seasoned enough to know those little bits.
No, but it does help, because I'm thinking that I can't remember how Final Draft worked, but I guess this software would give you an idea of also the budget as you go along. It will tell you as you start writing. Probably it might give you an idea what the budget is at the end of it. Does it?
It might. I haven't seen it, but I know just enough Final Draft to get through it. So it's possible it does.
It's possible. I think so. I think it will give you an idea of what the budget is when you're finished. Or if you probably might have some video tutorials teaching you a bit before. I can't remember. It was some years ago when I looked at it, so I haven't looked at it recently. But yeah, so persons who really want to get into moving their book to a film, they really need to do the necessary research, look at software that they can probably start doing a draft, getting students. You talk about Craigslist, students who are in probably the universities, who are in the film, the film industry producing, and they're young and they're fresh and they're looking for material, and they can help you to craft out something and the possibility, and they probably would know a lot about doing budgets as well, because they would have had to do that in their studies. So lean on the student community, because people might be thinking and listening to us, oh my God, how much I'm going to have to pay for this? I don't know anybody. This is going to cost me. Use the student community. They're always looking for work, and they're looking for the experience and new content, so yeah, I always believe in reaching out to them to see what can happen, and probably even they might sponsor it, or they might know people who, because they're in that industry, they will know people who may be able to sponsor your film. Yeah. This is good, Everett. So where are you now with your book? What's happening with you? Where in the stage are you?
Yeah, well, the book came out in 2015, so it's been out for a while. The screenplay I did, they say it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to get a film from beginning to end. We're
Wow.
about the 2.5 year mark. But the screenplay itself, they say sometimes takes a year. So with the screenplay's been done a while. We have a producer, we have 2 executive producers, we have a director, and they're working on that. The latest, they're actually this week they're coming up with the movie poster for the IMDb. They're doing that this week. But the last thing that they're doing is they create the shooting schedule. So if you have, which is not a small thing. So you have 11 characters, and Susie is in this is scene, but Susie's also in these 11 scenes, and you have to batch all your Susie scenes so you know when Susie's going to shoot.
Oh my God.
So that's what they're doing right now, which is because then they need to go to the cast that they've been courting, and they need to say, hey, if you're going to play the part of Susie, you need to commit to these dates. Will you commit?
Yeah.
And that's the stage that they're at right now, which is the last stage before it goes to announced. And in the film world, it's development, and you can remain in development for decades if you'd like. I mean, development. Then it goes to announced. Then it goes to casting, pre-production, post-production release.
I'm breathless, Everett. I'm breathless. I'm breathless. Stop. I'm breathless. Because all I see is me paying for a movie ticket and sitting in the movie theater. That's all.
And that's all you're supposed to see.
Right? I just pay for the damn ticket and sit down there and then critique it after.
Yep.
All this thing you're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. All of this, the years it take, the people, the production, and I say production, it's like production. Pre this, post that, during this and now. I am like, what? It is just a film, okay? The movie, you pay for a ticket and you sit. That's all.
Yeah, it's only a film that is an hour and a half long.
Yeah. That
took 6 years to be made. Right.
Thank you, Everett. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Thank you. So you're going through this process. Tell me the emotional roller coaster, if any, that's happening to you. Tell me. Let's get down and dirty here. What's going on with you?
That's a great question. You sort of have to let that go. You have to sort of, and just, what's funny is I see that through the industry, they try to keep the writers as far away as possible.
Stay away, Everett. Stay away.
And so the group that I work with is great. They get me involved where they need to get me involved, but you can tell through conversations that they've had some nightmares where the writer goes, let me tell you how it is in the book, which is how it's right. So you can tell that they've had wounds. They have open wounds that are, but the group that I'm with is incredible. They're great. They want the same things that I want.
Yeah.
And I think if you can find a producer, I mean, that would be anyone that was looking for it. A would be to get a rough screenplay done. Mm-hmm. And then B, find a producer. And there are many, 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 many of them out there that are looking to work on good projects. And then they will go and they will, if they believe in it, they will go off and they will find the people to make it happen.
Good. So you, in other words, you've been handling it pretty well. You're not pulling your hair out. Or probably by the end of the 6 years, if you reach, if it takes 6 years, it might be less. You mightn't have hair on your head. I don't know.
I think, it's an interesting question. And I think part of it is, I don't think you're supposed to let it be bigger than it is, because if it becomes all encompassing, then when it's over, you're over.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've made it everything. Mm. So I think it's I think it's neat. I mean, the first time that someone on stage read words that I wrote, mm-hmm. I couldn't believe anything could be that amazing.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah.
But what was incredible was I would create these characters, and then we would cast them and we would work with the actors. And by the time the plays happened, the characters in my head were gone, and now those actors were the characters. Nice. So I sort of gave it away. It wasn't mine anymore.
It's children. Your children have now become real. They have grown. Right. You had to let them go.
And you let them go.
You had to let them go. But it's great to see your children grown. And it's great to see what you have produced take on flight, and you can just sit back and say, yes, I have accomplished. I've done what I had to do. I am proud of them. Isn't that amazing? That's a great feeling. That's a great feeling. Did you ever think when you started off writing, I mean, simple thing from helping your sons, that this would happen to you and for you?
Yeah, and that's another trick question, because I think we writers think that we're more amazing than we are. I mean, someone who does their job well, whether they shine shoes or whether they build birdhouses or whether they, pack groceries, it's still a skill. And if you're good at what your skill is, then I think you should be proud in whatever it is. I try to keep in perspective. I have a wife that if I ever, when we first met, she said that I'm the kite and she's the string.
Yes.
And I think that fits, because if a kite doesn't have a string, it's going to be wrapped around a pole someplace. So I think you have to be grounded, and you have to take pride in what you do, but you also have to realize that it's a craft like anything else. It's no more important in the scheme than the guy that builds sheds or the guy that paints houses. I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, but you need to take pride in everything.
Yeah, you're talking humility, a very good characteristic.
Absolutely.
Humility. Don't think you're above and beyond. Don't think that you're above and beyond, and just take pride in what you're doing, and don't feel you're bigger than or
Correct.
it's bigger than, and suddenly have an air about yourself that, oh, it's me, notice me, here I am, and with that sort of attitude and characteristic, that trait, you're going to get far. You're going to get far.
I agree.
Yes. Is there anything on your website that you would like me to highlight for you?
Yeah, it's totally up to you. If you go to 33 Cecils, you can see a little bit about the book and some of the articles.
Do you have I can't remember if I found a video on your.
There is a book trailer.
Yeah, where did I find that? I saw it somewhere.
Actually, if you go down on that page, it might be there.
No,
I lied to you. Yeah, where is it on there? Is it on there?
Is it on the media? Let's have a look. I can't remember. I saw something about a video. No. Let me try about. Oh, I just love this. What is that?
Yeah, that is a play that I wrote where I got talked into playing one of the parts, and the gentleman dies, and we had a very talented guy that does our sets. He drew a portrait of me for the funeral scene, and at the cast party when we were giving off awards and everything, they presented me with that portrait.
Oh, that's lovely.
So that's Dave Aubrey, my co-director, and so I just love that picture. It's just that says a lot.
Beautiful, and it's sort of it fits you.
Yeah.
It fits you. It fits you. I'm not seeing the video.
Yeah, I know if you Google, you can find it, but I hate to make you do that.
I don't know, but what I would do is find a link for it and then include it in the promotion.
Sure.
Yeah, and let's see your works in progress. Let's see what's happening here. Woo! I love that. The stage is set. Binghamton.
Binghamton, Lydia.
Yes.
That's a play I'm finishing up that will be done in the next month or so.
Oh, nice. So you're constantly at work.
I like it. I enjoy it.
Very good. Very good. Very good. And persons can contact you. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a contact page on the site, I think. It's hiding behind my handsome face.
I like that. Yeah, so you can contact him on his page, and it's everettdemorie.com. Yeah, so it's easy to find. Yes. Fabulous, fabulous. Well, Everett, it's been great having you on Between the Lines. Oh, yes, our conversation was very valuable, and especially for persons who aspiring authors, they probably haven't written a word yet, but they would love to. And for those who have, that are looking to upgrade or move towards, I want them to leave understanding that it's just another format. Just as how you have audio, you know, ebooks, print is just another format. So I don't want them thinking like, oh, I was thinking, oh, it's such a big leap. You know, it's just another format for people who want to consume it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there'll be some people who will never see the film because they're just hooked on the book. And there are people who might do the reverse, want to see the film, but they will not read the book. So it's just another format. It's as simple as that, because people sort of get all anxiety just from the thought. I mean, I was breathless while you were talking to me.
Well, you know, the great thing about that is all of this was learned while doing it. So it can be, you know, a 55-year-old guy can pick this stuff up pretty quick once you're doing it, which is a great way to learn it. You know, if you try to sit back and digest it scholastically, it lacks something, I think.
Yeah, that's the best way to learn. Learning while you're doing it. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Everett. It's been a pleasure having you on Between the Lines. I congratulate you again.
Thank you.
You know, for all that you have accomplished so far. I'm sure your children are proud of you. You know, your family are proud of you. Friends, everybody who's connected to you to say, hey, I know Everett de Maurier. You know, you know, so, you know, and all the work that you have in progress, because you're constantly doing the things that you love. It's your passion, clearly. So keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Thank you so
very much.